Welcome back to the Nephilim Expedition channel. The origin of humanity. In the beginning of time, when none of the Nephilim had yet arrived on Earth and the terrestrials had not yet been created, what existed was a vast, watery planet called Tiamat. Then, drawn by the gravitational pull of our solar system, Nibiru, the home of the Nephilim, the reddish planet with an elongated orbit around the Sun, dragged its satellites until they collided with Tiamat. That's how it happened millions of years ago, until, after successive collisions, Nibiru itself collided, destroying Tiamat and turning it into one half, which today is the asteroid belt, while the other half transformed into our planet, Earth. Due to its elongated and elliptical orbit, Nibiru has not been sighted yet. Or perhaps space agencies have already found it, but have not received authorization to make it public. According to what is narrated in the tablets, millions of years ago, there was much conflict and rivalry on Nibiru, which was then divided into two kingdoms, where invasions of the northern kingdom into the southern kingdom and vice versa were common and recurring. The clans of the two kingdoms formed tribes and soon found themselves facing each other, fighting against each other, resulting in many deaths and destruction. It went on like this for millions of years until desolation took over the planet, and almost all life there was decimated. So they decided to sit down and talk, and they chose a ruler for one kingdom, who should be married to a princess from the other kingdom. Since the wars had decimated many men, they created a law allowing men to have concubines to increase the planet's population again. However, they established the law of seed and the law of succession, and so various rulers controlled Nibiru, each in their time, without solving the planet's major problem. With each perigee and apogee that Nibiru made around the Sun, its atmosphere increased the fissures caused by wars, and they did not heal. The Council of Sages suggested the use of monatomic gold to heal the planet. So, Alalu, a prince from the royal palace, decided to take advantage of the failure to solve the ruler's problems in power and provoked a rebellion by assassinating him, proclaiming himself king and seizing the throne by force and violence. After several shahs, a young prince named Anu claimed the kingship because, as he asserted and proved, it rightfully belonged to him according to the law of royal seed. But Alalu was not willing to give up what he had conquered. That's when, strategically, Alalu invited Anu to be his royal cupbearer, promising to give him the throne in the future. An impasse was created, generating a lot of tension among the Nibiruans. However, to avoid further bloodshed, Anu accepted Alalu's conditions, and he had his reign approved by the 7 councillors of Nibiru. For 9 shahs, 32,400 Earth years, Alalu reigned and Anu served him. In fact, one of Anu's sons, then Prince Ea, married Damkina, Alalu's daughter. However, seeing that Alalu did not keep his word, Anu eventually lost patience and challenged him to a hand-to-hand combat. The battle was fierce, but in the end, Anu defeated Alalu, being acclaimed as the new king of Nibiru. Fearful of retaliation from Anu, the defeated Alalu secretly boarded a parked spaceship and, armed with projectiles, closed the door, entered the front chamber, took the commander's seat, started the engine, and escaped from Nibiru, ending up here on Earth. The Nephilim, led by Ea, arrived on Earth after Alalu, but after thousands of years of extracting monatomic gold from the seas and the bowels of the Earth, and after many revolts by other Anunnaki, they decided to evolve Homo erectus into a being capable of handling tools and understanding commands. The Neanderthal man was created, or the first Adam, the slave labor needed to alleviate the burden of the Anunnaki. This experiment was only possible because Anu authorized it. However, it was supposed to stop at this stage. Nevertheless, the young Prince Ea, now called Enki, decided along with his team to advance the research. His justification was that to generate the Adamic race, a clone race, the women of Nibiru engaged in the project suffered too much, and in the end, attached to the children, they ended up seeing them suffer from separation. It was then that his son and team member, the young Ningzida, suggested adding a pair of X and Y chromosomes to the DNA of the model couple, Adam and Eve, or Adamu and Tiamat, who had been collected from the Garden of Eden. From this evolutionary leap, the Cro-Magnon man emerged, capable of reproduction. Anticipating that the consequences of this evolutionary leap would lead to dire results, and discontented with all the aberrations resulting from the experiments, Enlil, Enki's brother and Lord of the Earth Mission Command, expelled the couple from the garden and sent them far away, to Abzu, the lands where Enki was the Lord. Not satisfied, Enki decided to go even further, this time mating with two Cro-Magnon females, each of whom bore a boy and a girl. The couple was named Adapa and Titi, and they are the same biblical Adam and Eve, or Homo sapiens sapiens. Indeed, the couple was extraordinarily different from all other beings created by Enki, and this cooled the tempers of Enlil. However, the uncontrolled growth of the Cro-Magnons, mixed with the Homo sapiens sapiens and the Neanderthals, eventually led to devolution. At that time, Adapa and Titi had already given birth to Cain and Abael, and their discord had already eliminated Abael, and Cain had already been expelled and marked. Other generations followed, and the savagery among the terrestrials continued to increase. During this time, Enki mated with Lamech's wife, resulting in none other than Noah. All of this only served to confirm that Enlil had been right from the beginning. So after thousands of years, and with Earth suffering with each return of Nibiru, growing in a disorderly manner, with food shortages, and with the approach of another ice age, with the prospect of a great flood on the way, Enlil decided to seize the cataclysmic opportunity and let the terrestrials perish. For him, Enki and his team had gone too far, wanting to be like the great creator of all. For Enlil, it was right to let evolution happen naturally. And since it had been accelerated irresponsibly, the consequences could only lead to disorder and chaos. Therefore, letting the terrestrials perish was one of the arguments that his nephew Marduk used to enlist the terrestrials in his strategy of attack, control, and power. Thus, cunningly, he married the terrestrial Sarpanit, showing that he was on their side, and not the Nephilims, and therefore, there was no one better than him to become the Lord of the Earth. Then came the flood, but some terrestrials managed to survive with Enki's help, including his son Noah. Others, however, had already saved themselves by migrating to some regions of the northern hemisphere that were not affected by the waters. This was the case with the descendants of Cain, who had migrated to the Americas and Russia. So, the Nephilim returned, this time to Egypt, and began to wage war again. It was then that Ninmah suggested that Anu divide the earth into 4 regions in an attempt to calm the clans. The first region was assigned to Enlil, encompassing all of Mesopotamia and Greater Israel. The second region belonged to Enki, encompassing all of Africa. Due to the loss of his son Dumuzi, Anu gave the third region to Inanna, which included the lands from Persia to India. Marduk did not like this at all, and since he was so determined and hungry for power, he ended up requesting Egypt from Enki, which had previously been given to Ningzida. The confusion created was so great that Marduk almost died and was exiled to Mesoamerica. However, Anu forgave him, and he took the opportunity to return to the fight with Enlil for control of the earth. The two, aided by other Nephilim, took the power struggle to its ultimate consequences, culminating in a nuclear war in 2024 BC. A council was created before the tragedy to discuss Marduk's actions, his insistence on challenging Enlil's command, his alliance with the Igigi, and the creation of various armies of terrestrials with the intention of attacking and conquering the region under Enlil's protection. That's when Marduk declared that Babylon was the center of the earth. Ninurta argued that he could not access power under any circumstances. Not even the balanced Ningzida remained neutral. His heart could not forgive Marduk's injustice against him, expelling him from Egypt and disfiguring the Sphinx, which had his face carved on it to be modified with the face of Osiris, Marduk's son. Nannar, the other son of Enlil, born on earth, was also ruthless, accusing Marduk of taking his temple to make it his own dwelling. Likewise, Ishkur, Enlil's youngest son, demanded punishment for Marduk, accusing him of prostituting his people in his lands and taking it for himself. Utu, Nannar's son, directed his anger at his cousin Nabu, Marduk's eldest son, accusing him of trying to take the place of spaceships. Gibil claimed his brother Marduk's disregard for all the laws established among the Nephilim. Nergal, another brother of Marduk, agreed with Ninurta, shouting that Marduk could only be stopped by force. The first tablet that gave rise to the lost book of Enki depicts Enki's lamentations and bitterness as he realizes the destruction and death caused by the nuclear war between his clan and his half-brother Enlil's clan. The earth was desolate, and the inhabitants suffered the consequences of radiation, which spread with the help of what he called the evil wind. Stables were abandoned, corrals were empty, cities were destroyed, people were piled on top of each other, dead or mutilated by radiation. Much of the land became desolate, rivers dried up, lakes and ponds became contaminated with their waters. Sumer was emptied of life, everything had perished, and the Sumerians, the people with black hair, as the Nephilim called them, had been extinguished by the brutality of the battle and its aftermath. In the glorious cities, only the wind howled, death was the only smell. The temples and ziggurats whose tops reached the sky had been abandoned by the Anunnaki gods. No one remained, neither commoners nor royalty, no carts or landlords, no scepter or crown. Everything had disappeared. On the banks of the two great rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, once lush and teeming with life, only weeds grew. No one traversed their roads anymore, no one sought their paths. Flourishing Sumer was like an abandoned desert. How desolate the land had become, the home of the gods and men. A calamity had befallen the earth that was still unknown to man and impossible to resist. In all lands, from west to east, a destructive hand of terror had taken hold. The gods in their cities were as helpless as men. Enlil and Ninurta did not anticipate that after the nuclear bomb explosions, the wind would spread radiation from Babylon to the west, where they had been launched, to the east, where they were located, and that they would hit Sumer directly, sweeping away Shuruppak, Bad Tibira, Nippur, Lagash, Ur, and Eridu, and that it would continue its devastating course in the lands that are now Israel, Jordan, Arabia, and Egypt. Upon realizing what was happening, the supposed gods fled their cities. Their temples were abandoned to the wind. In Eridu, Enki's and Enlil's city, which gave rise to the then venerated biblical god for the terrestrials, nothing could be done to stop the poisonous cloud. The people of that time did not realize that the Nephilim were not gods. These giant men, filled with knowledge, were incomprehensible to those people. Most of them died without even seeing that Enki had abandoned Eridu, that Enlil had abandoned Jerusalem, where even today there is the link connecting Nibiru to earth. No one realized that all the other Nephilim had fled, abandoning their cities. The Great Flood was destined to happen. It was a natural catastrophe due to the proximity of Nibiru to earth. However, this great calamity of deadly storms was caused by the Nephilim themselves, by their wars, fueled by their rivalries. And all this destruction happened in the 21st century, in the year 2024 BC. After that, the relationship changed completely. Anu decided that Earth belonged to the terrestrials, and that we would be ruled by Marduk as long as his era, the Age of the Ram, lasted. After that, kings and queens, priests and tribal leaders were chosen by the Nephilim to be at the forefront and intermediaries for their interests. Strategically, these representatives spread the idea that the Nephilim had left Earth. However, only Enlil temporarily distanced himself from his region, returning to Nibiru, but left Ninurta in his place, aided by his brother Ishkur and his nephew Utu. That's why even today, the first region is protected, despite experiencing many wars, invasions, and diasporas. The Enlilites have always been there. However, all the other Nephilim fled to other places on Earth, and it seems they are still controlling the terrestrials. Nevertheless, even though the Nephilim born on Earth and those prevented from returning to Nibiru are in control, Enlil is still the Lord of Command, and his absence, which in Nibiru time is only a few months, but in Earth time has already exceeded 3,500 years. They all know that Enlil will return, and Nibiru needs to repair all the harm it caused to Earth and the terrestrials by advancing us prematurely, leaving us to our own devices, and leaving us under the control of the Nephilim who stayed on Earth. That's why in many cultures, everyone expects or talks about the coming of a Messiah. However, while for some, the narrative points to the amalgam created by Marduk's descendants, for the Enlilites, this Messiah is Ninurta, even though they may not know it. Just over a decade ago, no one knew anything about Nibiru or the Nephilim. However, every day it becomes more difficult for the Matrix to hide the information that comes to us in real time. In books and articles that are published and address the subject, in archaeological discoveries of megalithic sites that reveal that the key to our present lies in discovering our past. Does Nibiru really exist? Is it approaching Earth again? Will Enlil and Ninurta return to fight the descendants of the Nephilim who remained on Earth? Can they hide the truth from the terrestrials for a long time? King Solomon, a wise man of his time who interacted directly with the Nephilim, including Ninurta, Ishkur, and Utu, and who built the great temple for the return of Enlil, who, along with the others mentioned, the Enlilites began to call Yahweh, wrote, "What has been will be again, what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." Ecclesiastes 1:9. Don't miss the next video with more insights. If you liked the content of the Nephilim Expedition channel, don't forget to like and share. Leave your comment so that we may continue to bring this relevant content to those who wish to awaken and to free themselves from the Matrix. All the narrative content of this channel is exclusive, and the copyright for the texts and scripts belongs to the screenwriter Kito Mello. So beware of channels that are copying our material. It's only here that you will be able to have your questions answered with the depth of someone who studies ancient astronaut theory every day.